product featured in today's video was provided by Mondo for the purposes of this review. Hey guys, I am Pixel Dan, and I'm here to continue my look at all of the Mondo Masters of the Universe 1/6 scale figures. And we are going to continue on with yet another villain. We've got so many bad guys already out on this line, but I am not complaining. The bad guys have always been my personal favorite part of the Masters of the Universe brand. They make great toys, so today we're taking a look at Faker. Now, this guy was pretty much guaranteed. I mean, Faker's always been one of those characters who is very, very popular, but he's also very, very easy to do because you have a He-Man and you have a Skeletor and you mash their parts together, you can make a Faker very easily. So I'm not complaining. Again, I love Faker. He was just one of those figures that was definitely bound to happen. He's got that same Snake Mountain box print there for the awesome slipcover that's over the box. Very colorful, very bright. We've seen it if you've already seen my videos on any of the other villains. So let's go ahead and remove that slipcover and get a closer look at the box underneath. So you can see that Faker's has a nice blue color, which makes total sense for Faker. We've got that artwork right there on the front, but then when we flip it to the back side, you get the full color version of the artwork, which I really love. I love those bright, almost neon-like colors. That is very, very cool. Almost has that very cool Kirby cosmic look to it. I kind of love that. I think that's awesome. So this is the Mondo exclusive version of Faker. Mondo does exclusive limited versions of all of their figures, which comes with an additional accessory, so we will have that on the inside. And this is also a magnetic flap over here on the side of the box. See that? So it's going to be great if you want to store your stuff in here. It's a really nice sturdy box. But we can also open that up to reveal the window, which showcases the figure and all of his accessories within. And then we even get a little bio over on the side over here for the Faker character. So we're going to go ahead and get Faker and all of his accessories pulled out of the box. We're going to get a closer look at them. All right, so we've got our Faker figure outside of the packaging. And now we can take a closer look at him. So let's go ahead and start with the scale. Let me grab the tape measure here to get the measurements because, as I mentioned, this is in the 1/6 scale. So if I bring in the tape measure here, you can see that the figure is just a little shy of a full 12 inches tall. Almost there to the full 12 inches. And as I mentioned while we were talking about the packaging, of course, this is essentially the exact same figure as the He-Man that we got before, though he does have a few differences with his accessories. Of course, he's wearing the Skeletor harness there, done in that orange color, and then some of his weapons that we've got packed in are a little bit different as well. But everything else does seem to be pretty much the same, aside from the colors. And I already kind of talked about in the He-Man review that I didn't totally love the redesign for He-Man, but I also noted that it's always hard to make a new version of He-Man that looks like He-Man because I just always think of the vintage figure and the original cartoon, and those are just kind of the way I envision He-Man. So it's going to be totally up to you on how you feel about this. I will say the paint deco is really nicely done on this guy. Of course, he uses that great blue color, very similar to Skeletor. There's lots of great shading in here, so the paintwork looks fantastic. You can see on the armbands there's some nice purple worked in with the black bands. We've also kind of got like this gunmetal, like silver there on the sides. And all the way down to the boots, you can see we got the nice fuzzy tops, which is done in black on this figure, as opposed to the brown seen on He-Man. And again, just like the wraps, he's got like purple boots with black wraps going around it there. So all in all, looks really cool. And then, of course, the belt and the armor is sort of like this burnt orange. And we've got the red gem in the center, just like with Skeletor. You'll also notice that on his chest, he does have the control panel tampo that looks like it's done exactly like the vintage action figure. So it's not like a sculpted piece or anything like that. It basically looks like a sticker on the figure, but it's not a sticker, it's a tampo. So it's like, on there, it's not going to come off. So I was looking at the armor to see if there was a good way to remove the armor, and maybe I'm missing something, but it does always seem like the armor doesn't really have a way to come off. I started pulling here on the underside, but I kind of felt like I was ripping it, so I kind of stopped doing it. So it is there. I can't get the armor off all the way to really get a good look at it. Maybe maybe it is supposed to come off. Maybe I'm missing something. You guys can feel free to let me know. Of course, he's also got like this leather piece here, just like He-Man. It's sort of like a faux leather. Underneath that, he does have the actual like furry shorts, and they've got like a purple dry brushing on there, so that is on there. This part is connected to the belt, but it is really neat. Like, it looks like it's got some cross stitching and everything in there. So all in all, he does look really nice. Exactly what to expect with this. If you've already got the He-Man figure, you know exactly what you're getting with Faker here. Just like all the other versions of Faker we've ever gotten in action figure form, he's just that same figure with a blue color scheme and Skeletor's armor. So if you're not familiar with these, let's go ahead and break down the articulation here. Of course, that head is on a ball joint. It can look left and right really nicely. It can kind of roll all the way around. It does have an interchangeable head feature, which I'll show you in just a bit. He does have the ball joints at the shoulders there, so you can see the arms can go outwards, move forwards and backwards. You could swivel them at the bicep there. You do have bends in the elbow. The wrists, you can see there's a little peg there. They pop right out of socket. It's also ball jointed though. It's got a hinge, so you can roll those all the way around. The torso is also jointed there, as well as the waist. It's also on a ball joint, so it can swivel. It can roll all the way around there. You do have ball joints at the thighs. They can go forwards, backwards. They can swivel all the way around. You do have really tight double joints at the knees there, which can also swivel for the lower legs. And then the ankles, they're actually really nice and tight on Faker here. You can see they move forwards and backwards, and they do slightly rock side to side. So very much in line with the articulation that we've seen on all of these figures so far. This guy stands pretty good. I haven't had any real issues keeping him standing. Like I said, his joints all seem pretty tight, but if you want it, you do have the included figure stand. It's the same one that comes with all of these figures. You can just kind of raise up the cradle here. That part will just kind of sit, of course, between the figure's legs, but it does help give them a nice, sturdy stance, which is going to be really great for displaying these guys, especially if you've got like a glass Detolf case or something like that that you want to display them in. Okay, so I mentioned that the figure does come with interchangeable hands. He comes out of the box with the closed fists. So in addition to that, he does have a pair of gripping hands for holding on to his sword and his shield accessory we'll be looking at in just a bit. And then he's also got a pair of gripping hands that have a trigger finger for his blaster that we're going to take a look at. So in order to do this, like I showed you during the articulation, you can easily just pull the hands right off there. Also, it's worth noting that these wrist bracers are a separate piece. They'll come right off once you pull the hands out of the socket there. But these pop right into place. So for his accessories, I want to get this one out of the way first. He comes with the big shield. It's the same shield that came with He-Man. This time around, it's done in kind of that nice burnt orange color, which is very cool looking. You can see it's got a bit of a metallic shine to it on the front. But the back of it, this is the part that I kind of have an issue with, and I believe I talked about this with He-Man. I was running into the same problems here with Faker. So let me show you how this works. The handle can unplug off of there, and one of the things I kind of don't like about this is that it's really loose. I mean, it does not really clip on there very tight, and that really kind of causes a problem when we've got it on the figure. On top of that, for some reason, you can pull the pegs out of the side of this thing, and they're really, really loose. So if I want to put this shield on Faker, you have to pop the hand off, and then you need to slide the arm through the actual rung of the shield there. Now, I found it easier, and I think the reason this is designed this way is because you want to put the actual handle to the shield into the hand. But one of the issues that I've got here, and this was the same with He-Man, is that the sculpt of the hand isn't really in a good gripping pose for these weapons. Like, it's almost like the grip is supposed to be this way instead of straight up and down, and that makes it a little hard to attach this. Plus, I keep losing these pieces out of the side. So once we do that, we can plug the hand back in, and then you can try to line up this handle to plug it back into the shield. And this is where, I don't know, maybe it's me, but I have a lot of problems with that. There we go. And then we've got the shield on, but when I move it around, it pops off so easy, just like that. So, and it's kind of because it's like a really heavy accessory. You know, it's really nicely made, the weight and everything, but the handle just doesn't seem to stay in these sockets. So it makes it hard for Faker to actually hold on to it. But once you get it there, it looks really nice. See, I'm having a lot of problems actually keeping this thing on. So I will just say that it's the one thing I don't really like about this figure. I just don't really like that shield. I feel like the handle doesn't work as good as it probably should. So Faker does also come with his own variation of the Sword of Power as well as the sheath, just like we saw with both He-Man and Skeletor, and this can fit on his back just like with those two figures. You've got these little slots here on the back that fold down, and these can just slide right behind the armor straps on the figure's back, whichever direction you want to put it. It works either way because you can slide those all the way around, and that way you can strap the sheath to his back with the sword if you want to. Also very easy to pop back off. And then the Power Sword is the same version that came with Skeletor. So it's got the ram skull at the top of the handle there, but the sword is done in a gold and sort of that burnt orange color scheme to more match up with Faker. So it's a third version of this Power Sword that we've got between He-Man and Skeletor. Again, just like every version of these action figures that have basically ever existed. And then the hands work pretty good to hold on to it. You can kind of flex the fingers a little bit, and that way he can get a grip on his version of the Sword of Power. In addition to the Sword of Power, he also comes with a orangish version of the same battle axe that He-Man came with. Again, just falling right in line with having all those same weapons and everything. So still really nice looking weapon. I love the paint deco on these. I think it looks really, really nice. And then the last weapon that he comes with is a different one. We've got this really cool blaster rifle. This is neat because it definitely looks like it's modeled after the blaster rifle that came with the old Castle Grayskull playset. And even in this kind of orangish color scheme here, it almost looks like the version that came packaged with Web Store. But it's still pretty neat. You can see it's got a lot more details than that. This is what the trigger fingers are for, so we can hold on to this really tightly. You can even get some great two-handed poses out of it, which definitely makes this extra special. So that's just a really fun additional accessory for this figure and a great nod to the vintage toy line. And Faker also comes with not one, but two interchangeable heads. All of the figures have come with an extra head, but this one's pretty cool because Faker comes with this awesome head that is battle damaged so that you can see his robotic skull underneath. Very, very Terminator-esque. So let me show you. You can just pop Faker's head right off the ball joint like so. We can take this new head and we can add it on there, and that is a really cool way to display him because it adds this whole new kind of creepy vibe to Faker's look. The sculpting is really neat on there, and I love that kind of metallic silver endoskeleton kind of poking through the Faker face there. It's really creepy, and it's just a really fun additional accessory. But if you don't want battle damage, well, you've also got the option to display him with that classic toy head. So just like with He-Man and all the other figures in the Mondo line I've taken a look at so far, they do come with a version that is modeled after the vintage toy. And while I think that the sculpting is awesome and I love the vintage toys, once again, it just doesn't seem to match up with this new body. I think it has something to do with them being a little taller and more slender than the squat, beefed up 5.5-inch figures, and that's what makes it look weird to me. I don't know, maybe you think differently, but I love the vintage heads. They just don't really work for me on these bodies. So I would rather display my Faker either with the battle damaged head or the standard head that came with it. So there you go, my friends. That is a look at Mondo's 1/6 scale Faker from their Masters of the Universe line. Again, he's a fan favorite character, and even though most of them is basically just reused parts from He-Man and Skeletor, that is no different than Faker has ever been in any Masters of the Universe toy line. I can totally see why this is a figure Mondo would be putting out already, and he fits in perfectly with the rest of this line. He's got some really great accessories. I do love that blaster rifle. I think that's a great additional accessory, as well as that battle damaged Faker head. That's a really nice touch to give you a very different looking Faker for your toy shelf. Now, this figure has been out for a while. At this point, you'll probably need to track this guy down on the aftermarket at your favorite online store.